Today we're testing and reviewing another controller from Hex Gaming, and this bad boy looks amazing. Holy mother of God. Oh, baby. Oh, fuck. Now, unlike the Hex Rival DualSense controller, this PS5 controller has 4 paddles. Not really, it's actually 2 paddles and 2 buttons. While this controller stands out cosmetically, unfortunately, just like Scuf, it falls incredibly flaccid or limp when it comes to 4-paddle design. Yeah, it's such a big difference, you know? Nice. Gross. Damn. Let's get this thing. So I am no stranger to Hex Gaming. They've actually sent out quite a few controllers for review in the past. There's this PS4 controller over here, little 4-paddle design. Very nice, very nice. Then they sent out a 2-paddle PS5 DualSense controller also. Very nice controller. And most recently, they sent out this gorgeous 4-paddle Xbox Series S and X controller. All these have been comprehensively reviewed on the channel. Those will be linked in the description below. I reached out to him and said, hey, I was browsing your website and noticed that you now offer a 4-paddle PS5 controller. The only other company that currently offers a 4-paddle PS5 DualSense controller is AIM, who has sent that out to Gamer Heaven for review. And surprise, surprise, that is an awesome controller. But now they don't have the market completely cornered. Now there is another 4-paddle PS5 controller on the market, and I'm extremely excited. 4 paddles isn't necessarily a deal breaker, but it is a strong preference of mine. I can get away with 2 paddles, maybe jump and crouch, but generally I would like to have all 4 of the face buttons remapped to the back paddles so I can stay on the thumbsticks. So this is the identical box that Hex uses for all of the other controllers, at least every other one that I've unboxed on this channel, and it lets you know that this controller is tactical. Chris Kyle. G-Shock on the wrist, Oakley's on the forehead, Jeep Wrangler in the driveway, German Shepherd in the backyard taking a dump. Now, the packaging is nothing stellar. You do have some egg carton here, a little basic cardboard. I would like to see some laser cut foam, but not very many of these premium controller companies really offer a nice unboxing experience. Scuf, as much as I do dislike their paddle design, other than, hold on, the new Instinct Pro over here, Scuf's latest model, which actually does have a pretty good paddle design. I've blatantly disliked Scuf's previous paddle designs because, well, you cannot cover all 4 of them simultaneously comfortably. You can cover all 4 of them, but you gotta cock your hands like the dude from Scary Movie 2. That's no way to game. But I do understand why these companies skimp or cut costs a little bit with the packaging, because they can kind of pass on that savings to the consumer and keep the cost of their controllers down a little bit. This is wrapped in bubble wrap, which is nice. It will protect it for its journey to you. Holy mother of God. Oh, baby. Mama. Oh, fuck. We're gonna set you aside for a minute before I get overly stimulated. We are on camera here, Kevin. Now, you will have a little box right here, which does have your swappable thumbsticks. Yes, I did say swappable. They're not magnetized like the Microsoft Elite and Razer Wolverine. However, they are held on with friction. You just simply pop them on and off like that, and you are able to get different shapes, such as concaved or domed, and different heights as well. Of course, you want a shorter analog stick on the left and a tall boy on the right. Gives you a little bit more precision with your aiming. So I am going to be overlaying some B-roll on this footage right here, so that way you can get some nice cinematic close-ups of this controller. They have a very, very in-depth builder with tons of cosmetic modifications that you can make, such as if you want a different touchpad, a different faceplate, a different back shell, a different chin or trim piece on the PS5. Taking it a little bit further, a lot of premium controller companies out there, such as AIM and Battle Beaver and Cinch and Controller Chaos and whatnot, will offer bumpers and triggers as one modification, right? As where Hex offers bumpers and triggers independently. The only thing they could get a little bit more in depth with there is each individual button. So if you wanted to go diagonal crisscross applesauce, you could do that. But the fact is, you know, I chose this nice aluminum red for the bumpers and this caution yellow on the D-pad, share buttons, and triggers. Same thing I almost forgot here too with the anti-friction or impact rings, as some people call them. Let the analog sticks glide along smooth plastic instead of scraping along the front shell when you are at full lock. That's the purpose of these. Not just to look cool, but it actually has a performance function as well. Ergonomically, this feels identical to a PlayStation DualSense controller because that is what these controllers start as, is a licensed Sony DualSense controller. It's a good thing for 2 reasons and a bad thing for 1 reason. It's a good thing because it will wirelessly connect to your PlayStation 5 just like a regular Sony controller. You shouldn't need to be tethered up with wires and whatnot. And don't give me the whole 0 latency argument. I've debunked that several times. Somebody's gonna put in the comment section, well,
Kevin, actually, I'm a competitive esports athlete. I wouldn't even dream of playing wirelessly.
And the other pro to this being a licensed Sony controller is the fact that it's going to have all of the regular DualSense functionality, such as the adaptive triggers and haptic feedback motors. Now, you do have an option on their builder to remove the rumbles out of there, which would be cool if it was a PS4 or Xbox One or Series controller, but not on the PS5 DualSense. It's not just regular vibration in there, sweetheart. You got haptic feedback motors, which, if you've used them, pretty damn good. So if you want to save a little bit of weight, you can remove them, but unless you're only using this for competitive esports use, if you're actually going to be casually playing some PS5 first-party games, they're all going to have use for the haptic feedback motors in there. Same thing with the adaptive triggers. You can basically lock them out to where your trigger pull is like a mouse click, and that's cool and all, except for the fact that every single first-party Sony exclusive game that is coming out in the near future and is already out, for example, Ratchet & Clank Rift Apart and Returnal, not only have adaptive triggers that are cool, they get stiffer or lighter depending on what's going on screen, maybe pulling back a bow, or different cars have different gas and brake pedal feels, but it actually has a functional use because you hit a nice crisp wall of resistance, then you break past that, and it's a secondary fire mode, and in most of these games, you cannot remap or turn off that feature. So by having a trigger pull that is literally just a mouse click, you've basically just deemed a DualSense controller completely useless for PlayStation 5 games. It's fine if you're going to be playing only PS4 games on a PS5, or you're going to be plugging this into a PC tower and using it for competitive PC use, but if you're going to be using a PS5 DualSense controller on a PlayStation 5, playing PlayStation 5 games, you're going to want to keep in the haptic feedback and the adaptive triggers. You don't want to remove those. That's my PSA for the day. Not road PSA, boom arm, but public service announcement. Now this paddle design, as you can see, is almost identical to what they have on their 2-paddle design, except, well, 2 buttons on top of that. So you have K1, 2, 3, and 4. Now I don't know why they call their back buttons K1 and 2, but they do. Now I will say, it is a different paddle mechanism or design. I will be showing some B-roll on screen right now. Kevin, post-editing, talking to you. Record some B-roll of a close-up of both of these paddles. These ones are closer to the rear shell, which is a good thing. It's more ergonomically correct that way. And they also require more force or resistance to actuate the switches, which means you're not going to get as many accidental presses of these rear paddles. And it just feels a lot more satisfying and tactile and clicky than their 2-paddle design, which is by no means bad, but these feel substantially better in my opinion. Now, what I'm not a huge fan of, I will say, is these additional 2 buttons up here. It is fantastic that you now offer a 4-paddle design and you're still carrying the 2-paddle design. That gives the customer options on your website and on their Amazon page where you can choose, oh, I'm a 2-paddle player, that's all I need, or hey bro, I'm an esports athlete, sucker, I need 4 paddles. But here's the thing, just like Scuf's old controllers, you cannot comfortably cover all 4 of these rear paddles. Technically, it's 2 paddles and 2 buttons, which is an interesting design. I don't think I've ever actually seen that before. So I'm going to show you the different methods of holding these paddles. You have this way, which is incredibly uncomfortable, but you can cover all 4. Nope, not really, because it's really like difficult to like pull down these 2 paddles like that. Then this is the most natural. This is how you want to this is the most natural. This is how you want to hold it. How are you going to cover these? You're not going to hold it like that because then you're not covering the triggers and bumpers. God dang it. So how you're going to actuate this button is by shifting your fingers like this, which means just like Scuf's paddle design, you can hit all 4 of the buttons relatively quickly, but you cannot cover all 4 of them comfortably simultaneously. Fuck. So these are a couple of AIM controllers that were sent out for review recently. This is obviously Xbox Series S and X, and this is a PlayStation 5 DualSense over here. And if you look at this design here, it's not perfect. I have yet to try a rear paddle or button system that is literally perfect. This comes very close though, as you can simultaneously cover all 4 of them. This is kind of my daily driver for PlayStation 5 use. And I will be using this quite frequently, but you can't really I guess like that. but not really, because you can't really like squeeze the rear paddles like that. And also just a side point, besides the main key takeaway that you cannot cover all 4 of these simultaneously, would be the fact that these feel tactile and clicky. These 2 buttons back here do not. They feel kind of mushy, and you don't get good, satisfying feedback from it. You know you're pressing it, but it's like, it's sloppy. It feels kind of sloppy. Yeah, it's just such a big difference, you know? Nice. Gross. Damn. This thing does look so damn sick, though. I will say that their builder cosmetically looks awesome. The paddles, man. These 2 feel great. Feel awesome. I almost feel like the best way to describe this, the best way that how I would use this controller would be like a 2-paddle controller. And then these are there in case of emergency or whatever, but like they're not really accessible like that, you know what I mean? Down the road in a separate video, I will be doing an in-depth comparison of this Aim 4 paddle and this Hex 4 paddle. And I'll also throw in a couple of other PlayStation 5 controllers in the mix as well. But it'll primarily be a shootout, mano-y-mano, neck-to-neck, tip-to-tip, so to speak, between these 2 controllers here. But as of now, as gorgeous as I think this controller looks, cosmetically it is beautiful. Gorgeous, gorgeous controller. It's not a very practical 4-paddle controller. It's a 2-paddle controller with 2 additional buttons that you can use in a pinch. You know what I'm saying? How many times have I said you know what I'm saying in this video? You know what I'm saying? Hex also does offer mechanical bumpers and triggers. You know, smart triggers that feel like a little mouse click, which is great for competitive use only. Again, don't use it for casual play on the PlayStation 5. Let's go hop in the living room. I'm gonna show you guys how to remap the back buttons and get a little bit of stick time with this bad boy. Alright, Stallions, over here in the living room, a couple of things I want to cover before I show you how to remap the paddles on this bad boy. There is a 6-month warranty, which I guess is better than nothing, but that's kind of short in comparison to the at least year or 12 months that you generally get with other controller companies. So Hex, it would be nice if you could extend that just a little bit. Also, the included thumbsticks. You have 2 short concaved, 2 short domed, 1 long concaved, and 1 long domed. I have a short domed on the left and a long domed on the right. I did make a video a couple weeks back, which I will have linked in the description below, going over analog sticks and how they actually affect performance. Domed or convex sticks, and then concaved or dipped in sticks. And literally, there is no scientific data to prove that one is better than the other accuracy-wise. It's all personal preference, but what does matter is the actual height of the right stick. So what I do generally is bump up the in-game sensitivity about 2 to 3 clicks above default, put the highest possible right stick on there, and then I prefer something with good grip as well. If analog sticks don't have good stock grip, what I'll do is pop on some Control Freaks or some kind of generic thumbstick caps, but Hex gaming sticks are actually really good. In fact, these dome sticks are incredibly grippy, which I do like. Remapping the paddles is incredibly easy. I have only half a brain cell and I'm able to figure it out. You hold down this remap button for around 3 seconds and you will get an illuminated red LED on top here. Yeah, you can just barely see it, but it's right up there. Now what you're gonna do is simultaneously hold down the paddle and whatever you wanna remap it to. And you can remap virtually everything on here, including L3, R3, D-pad, face buttons, and the touchpad. Your thumbs are already on the stick, so I wouldn't remap that. You already have your fingers on the bumpers and triggers, so I wouldn't remap that. Personally, I would say either D-pad or face buttons. That's my personal preference. I want to map cross, not X. Oh, true Sony fans will rip you up real good. Cross over here to this right paddle. So I'm going to hold them down simultaneously. I'm going to get 3 rapid flashes of red, and then it is going to go solid again. And you can just continue the process. So if I want circle to this paddle and square to this button, then you just keep going until you are done remapping, and then you will press down the remap button again to exit mapping mode and go into normal functionality mode. And while there technically is no way to deactivate or turn off the paddles, you can put it into remapping mode, and that will make it to where the paddles and buttons do not work at all. However, everything else on the controller does. So if you want to pass the controller over to a spouse or friend for a little couch co-op and they don't like paddles, then you can do that. Now, keep in mind, if they press a face button and one of the back paddles and hold it down for about 3 seconds, it is going to map that paddle, but that is the only workaround to get the paddle system completely deactivated. So let's see how this thing feels, shall we? All right, let's do a little recoil control on the R301. You know, if you don't pull down that right stick, she's going up and to the right, and I do mean hard, ladies. So I will say the back buttons, not the paddles, but the 2 buttons aren't the most responsive things in the world. I am pressing them like Okay, right there it registered, but a couple of times I pressed it to latch onto that rope over there, and it just simply would not register, which is quite frustrating. I will say one of the strong suits of this controller is absolutely the builder. I think that there are a lot of cosmetic upgrades or modifications that you can make on their builder. Again, I would not recommend going through Amazon specifically for that reason. And that extends to any custom controller company out there, whether it's AIM, Scuf, Battle Beaver, whatever. I would recommend using their builder because you have a lot more customization in what you do and do not want on your controller, which is fantastic. Also, you will get access to all of their coupon and discount codes over there. As usually on Amazon, they run their own promotions on the landing page. So time to put the dick in verdict. What is my final thoughts of this controller? Well, you pretty much heard it throughout the video. I think cosmetically it looks absolutely gorgeous, but in my opinion, this is a 2-paddle controller with 2 additional buttons that you can use in a pinch. But much like Scuf controllers, you cannot cover all 4 of them simultaneously. When I say Scuf controllers, I'm not talking about the new Instinct and Instinct Pro. That has a completely different paddle design, but Scuf's traditional paddle design, this is very similar to that, and that means now, I will say the 2 actual paddles do feel quite good, but the 2 buttons on the back, there were several times when they simply didn't actuate when I pressed them, and I pressed them quite firmly. I also do like how quick and easy it is to remap the paddles if you're somebody that changes up your key binds or paddle bindings quickly, or frequently, I should say. It is incredibly easy. I'm not a huge fan of the 6-month warranty. I think they should kick that out to at least 12 months, if not 18. I mean, pretty much all the other controller companies offer a 1-year limited parts warranty, so Hex needs to get down with that. Also, another thing to keep in mind with Hex is that they are based off extreme rate parts. So if you don't mind doing a little bit of tweaking and tinkering on your own and don't mind fully disassembling a controller, you can actually buy kits, which I will have linked in the description below, which are literally the same parts that Hex is using, as Hex is a sister or offshoot company of Extreme Rate that does all the pre-assembly and quality control and then ships out a ready to run controller. So that is an option, and it is substantially cheaper if you want to buy the components. Granted, you're doing the labor to build it. So if you want that option, the paddle kit will be linked down there in the description below. Now, I will say that the Ultimate over here, which is the 4-paddle, is a better controller than the Rival over here, which is a 2-paddle design. Even if you're just going to be using this as a 2-paddle controller, which I kind of recommend you do, the paddles are closer to the rear shell and also do require more strength to actuate. So I would just get the Ultimate over the Rival, because even if you're using it as a 2-paddle or 2 rear button controller, they do feel better on the Ultimate, which is the 4-paddle that we tested here today. So overall, I think their builder is absolutely second to none. It is incredibly in-depth with how in the weeds you can get with the customization. And I do think that it is a solid 2-paddle controller that happens to have 2 buttons on the back. However, I do think Hex needs to go back to the drawing board and do a little bit more R&D or research and development, because the 2 paddles feel great, but the 2 buttons do not. They just feel like an afterthought that were tacked on. I do hate to say that because this controller was sent out for review, and I do greatly appreciate the opportunity to review it, Hex. However, this paddle design is not perfect and could use a little bit of reworking in your next version or iteration of this controller. If you enjoyed this honest controller review, liking it will help it to get seen by more gamers. This information will reach and assist them as well. Subscribe for more content like this. I cover news in the gaming community and industry, as well as tutorials helping you get set up streaming and YouTubing, and honest gaming peripheral reviews, keyboards, mice, headsets, controllers, gaming chairs, etc. And I'll see you guys tomorrow because I upload daily most of the time. Peace.